Hello, my name is Brian Cooley and I'm the pastor of echurchofindy. And I'd like to share with you in this first series, or this first teaching. It's probably going to be about a 2 or 3 part, because I'm going to try to keep the teachings at 10 minutes each since we're on YouTube. Anyhow, I want to share with you our vision for why we're starting echurchofindy. First of all, I want to tell you what our mission is. We feel like we're called to the lost sheep of Indianapolis. There's a parable in the Bible that Jesus shared. It talks about the Good Shepherd. He left the 99 sheep and he went after the one sheep that was lost. And in the church that I see nowadays, we see there isn't 99 in the church and one stray. We see like 30 left in the church and 70 strays. It's really hard to fit into church nowadays. It's a difficult experience. There's way too many dynamics. And what I want to start off with here on our first teaching, I'd like to share with you some of the war stories that I've had over the last few years of my life trying to fit in with churches myself. And I believe that it was orchestrated by God for us to see how difficult it is for people nowadays to feel like they're a part of a local body and fit in and do some things they want. To say the least, I can tell you it's been a major rodeo ride trying to find the right church, me and my wife. So, since we're talking about a rodeo ride, I thought I would, on the first teaching here, wear my favorite cowboy hat. There we go. Like it. Anyway, now I'm kind of giving away some of my roots. I was raised in southern Illinois, pretty much redneck, but not redneck. You know, most people's definition of redneck is, racist is attached to that, and it's true, many rednecks are racist, but I'm not your typical redneck. I'll tell you, where I was raised in southern Illinois, a little town I lived in, I was on, basketball team, baseball team, and a lot of my jock friends on weekends, they would go out and buy some beer and get drunk, and they'd drive to the local big city and go to the neighborhoods and pick fights with black guys, and then come back to high school Monday morning with black eyes and knots on their forehead and brag about being drunk and getting in fights with the black guys. I didn't do any of that, so I'm not your typical redneck. When they were gone, doing all that stupid stuff, first of all, I got saved when I was 15 years old. So, and back then, there wasn't any politically correct thing about that. It's just, in my heart, I knew it's not right to hate somebody just because their skin's a different color. Maybe it's because I'm part Cherokee or whatever, and, in our background, we've had enough of racism and all that stuff that goes along with it ourselves. But, like I said, when I got saved when I was 15, and my buddies was running off to be stupid and fight with the black guys from the big city, I would stay at home on the weekends and I'd practice my guitar. So you've got guitars. Practice my clarinet. Yep, I said clarinet. See, I told you I'm not the typical redneck. Or I would just stay home, read my Bible, study, listen to Andre Crouch and Disciples on the record player. Or, just hang out, drink Coke, and listen to Herb Alpert and the Tijuana Brass. See? Told you again, I'm not your typical redneck. No country music in my bedroom, but anyhow. I'm trying to get back on track here, and I'm totally lost. But anyhow, what I'm talking about is the rodeo rides that me and my wife have experienced of trying to find the right church for us, okay? So I want to go back about 5 years and go to a church that we actually tried to be part of for about 7 or 8 years. And as I describe some of these situations that happened to us, I'm going to be identifying with a lot of people out there that have had some of these same difficulties of trying to fit in with people that we have. And as I describe them, you see your own situations. I'm going to tell you why I feel like that we're called to the lost sheep of Indianapolis to make a place for people who feel like they haven't been able to fit in anywhere else to fit in. Okay, so I'm going to go back 5 years. One Wednesday night I went to my church we've been to for about 7 or 8 years. All of a sudden the preacher gets up and he announces that I'm not going to pastor a church anymore. I'm turning it over to somebody else. And I'm just giving him the church because my business on the side is making me so much money I can't afford to take time out to be a pastor anymore. Fine, I'm all right with businesses and all that stuff, but from my experience, I'm just going to church, fitting in, found one where everything's cool, and all of a sudden the pastor just gets up and says, I quit, I'm going to do my business. And then he turns it over to somebody from another city, and I don't want to say too much, but I couldn't understand what he was saying. For me, if I can only make out 60-70% of the words that are being spoken in the microphone because somebody talks too fast or too slangy or south side of Chicago or whatever, anyhow, I can't get anything out of the message. So it's like we had to go try to find something else. And wife and I ended up going to another church, and we were there for almost 2 years, but there was an experience there. And in this church, we went there, it started out kind of small, about 45-50 people, but we started noticing people that we would connect with in the church leaving. Just leaving, and then we'd call them up and say, what's going on? And they'd say, well, we had experience where we weren't doing something the way, the pastor wanted us to do it, and we felt like he's kind of rough with us. And, I like to give everybody the benefit of the doubt and hear both sides of the story. And we just saw it happen to several couples and people. And then, lo and behold, a couple years later, my wife had an altercation with another lady in the church. And, females are, they're a little more, how do you say it, emotional. And, we can get together and talk about the Colts and, shooting guns, UFC, whatever, and get along all day long. But the women, they get in arguments about, how recipes. No, I don't use that, whatever it is. But anyhow, eventually, you're following me here, there was something goes on, and then the pastor seemed like didn't want to get too involved with that, and basically just kind of, if it had too much to do with conflict, and trying to break up, a spat, whatever, in the congregation, he didn't really have the energy for that. He's staying focused on what's going to be said, in the pulpit. So we didn't really see a lot of that social function, and there we go, social functionality that we would expect to see in a church, and we eventually became one of those people that we saw leaving, and just felt like, pastor ain't really concerned about our side of the story or the issue to get us together and get us into peace and get us to move forward in harmony. It's just like, I don't have time for that. So y'all leave if you want to. Okay, so we're like, oh, okay, so we left. Well, we were gone a few weeks, and then a friend, in between churches for a few weeks, and then a friend calls me up on the phone and says, hey, we're starting a new church up here in Noblesville, a little satellite church. Would you like to try it out? And I said, sure. Well, first of all, I want to start out with saying this. One of the most difficult things for me finding a church where I fit in, number one, my work schedule. Okay? I work every Sunday morning of my life for the past 10 years because I finally got enough seniority to work on days, but not enough to get the weekends off where I work at. So anyway, we have to find a church that's got an evening service. And most churches nowadays in the big city here, they've cut all the evening services and they just have one service a week on Sunday morning. So if the people who have difficulty with work schedule fitting that in, they just have to go without church or, make 10 phone calls, and out of 10 churches you find one that's got an evening service. That's the situation I'm in. All right, then when we find, okay, so I'm moving on to the next church now. It's got an evening service. They meet on Saturday nights, okay? So we're going every Saturday night to church, and they got a 1-year lease on a little school building to start this church. So we'll go there for 1 year, we're liking it, fitting in, everything's cool. Well, all of a sudden, 1 year later, on a Monday morning, we get a letter in the mail, and it's from the pastor, and he said, the lease is up, been a year, church hadn't grown, we won't be having any more services. Well, We'd just been in church 2 nights before that.